All right, I'm Chad Sanders. You're in the right place. You were looking for me. Here I am. I'm at Chad Sand on Instagram. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with preamble here. Let's just get into it. So, there are three headlines that I want to talk about today. All right. I'm going to read them out to you first, and then we're going to sift through them one by one. The purpose of me doing this longer form content is I want to share more with y'all about the thought process that goes into the way that I decipher what's happening in our industry and how I'm going to make business choices based on that information. So, number one, Deadline reports TV agent Jackie Katz is leaving to become a therapist. She's going to NYU to go become a licensed, mastered therapist so that she can, though, have a therapy practice, okay? Number two, the Wall Street Journal reports that Meta's Reels business will be a $50 billion business, according to Mark Zuckerberg in 2016. And number three is that Lucas Shaw says we examined 6 years of Nielsen data to understand what TV people are streaming and how their tastes have changed. And I'll give you the spoiler there, which is that the deduction is that there were 0 hit TV shows in 2025. Okay. How do these headlines fit together and what do they mean to me? I'm going to go through them one by one. All right. Number one, this piece in Deadline, which I can hardly call a report because it includes a fully published letter to CAA from Agent Jackie Katz, and therefore to me represents something more along the lines of like a sharing, less so a report. This thing is talking about the fact that Jackie Katz, who's been at CAA for 15 years since she was 22, according to the piece, is leaving to go and become a therapist. Now, let's break this down piece by piece. Somebody sent me this headline, a friend of mine who's a TV writer, a movie writer. He sends me a lot of stuff about Hollywood. This is one of my good friends. We've worked together. He's somebody who's very much in the industry, okay? He just moved out of Los Angeles after 10 years over there. And when I read the headline, my first thought was, why is this news? Okay, actually, I'm gonna grab my coffee, and Maggie, you can either edit this out or keep it. Maggie, among so many hats that she wears, is also going to be editing these videos, and so she can make an authorial choice about whether or not she wants y'all to know her name. And Penny is my production assistant, my 86-pound German Shepherd. So, all right, why do I need to know this? Okay. Why do I need to know that an agent is leaving an agency to go and become a therapist? And the reason why I'm asking why do I need to know this is because this doesn't feel like news. It is incredibly common right now across Hollywood for people who have had long careers in this industry. I would consider myself sort of in the adolescent stage of that, somebody who's been in this for almost 10 years. This lady's been in it for 15, but it's very common that people are running for the hills right now because they're either about to get fired, they have been fired, or they're recognizing that this contracting industry is not going to have a space for them in the near future. And so I imagine that, or I don't imagine, I know it to be so, that so many agents and studio executives and TV writers and movie writers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, are looking for ways that they can make a living in the second half of their career. Many of us have built the first half of our careers in a business that's falling apart. Now, I personally believe that the smart thing to do for those of us who have built skill sets around creative industries, around the ability to make something and sell it, I believe that the smart thing for us to do, and this is what I'm doing, is to build a business around our ability to make something and sell it regardless of industry, right? The same way that I can sell a TV show to a studio, I also know I can sell a package of content, of marketing content, of creative content as an agency within myself to somebody who might want to buy that. But a lot of people who have not developed the sales muscle in this industry, creative people who think they need agents to sell for them, are very scared right now. They feel like their life is failing. They feel like their future is plummeting. This agent works on the sales side of the business. And so, as I understand it, she, I can imagine, is looking at what's coming down the pike in this industry and thinking, I need something new to sell because creativity is not a robust sales offering the way that it used to be. Let me make it more plain. When I came into this industry, I signed with WME. They're my agents to this day. I came into the industry about 9 years ago in 2017. I think I signed on February 1st, 2017. It was a very exciting day for me. I went into a room with a bunch of agents who were sitting there. I had been connected to one of them by a PR agent who was married to one of the agents in that room. And for an hour or so, I desperately, breathlessly did the act of trying to sell them on me, the client, right? Trying to make me seem like someone who was interesting to them, someone who they would be able to find a way to sell as an entity to studios and networks, someone who they could make other people want to buy creativity from. It took me years, probably really truly until the industry started to fall apart in the last few years, that I realized that the agents needed what I had, which was creative product, a well of it, an infinite well that I could keep drawing from, so that they could keep their industry running. Now, not me specifically. I mean the composite we, all the creatives together, we together amass an infinite well of creativity that is the agencies to draw from to sell to the studios. But the studios don't have a demand anymore. They don't want to buy creativity anymore. They are looking now for ways to replace creativity with artificially created art, if we can even call it that. Meaning, they don't want to do as much business with the agencies anymore. They never really wanted to do that much business with the agencies because the agencies take a cut out of their end of every sale and out of our end of every sale. That's packaging. That's a whole thing. And so many of these agents, as I understand it, as I see it, as I'm watching it play out, including Jackie Katz, are going and finding other ways to make a living, and they know how to sell. Therapists have to sell. This is, even as someone who has been therapized myself, something that is complex, something that is a conflict of interest in my eyes, especially as someone who spends so much time studying sales and executing sales and learning the psychology of sales. This is the conflict of interest that is therapy, which is that the therapist has to, while allegedly, presumably treating you and your mental, your mental ailments or whatever the technical jargon would be there, they also have to continue to treat you like a client. And what that means with a client is just like when you take your car to the shop and they fix your brakes, they're also running a diagnostic to figure out all the other stuff that's broken so that they can continue to upsell you on more and more expensive services. A therapist does the same thing. Who would be better at doing that as a therapist than a Hollywood agent? I can't imagine many people would be better equipped. And so I read this piece in Deadline. And in that letter that Jackie Katz writes to her colleagues at CAA, announcing that she's leaving, announcing or sharing all these different reasons why people should be bold in their choices. And there's so much flowery writing, or the best she could do, around like why she's so, grateful for the time and the things she's learned and the people she's worked with. And now it's time for me to leave. And she makes a point to say, this is not about the industry contracting. Don't get it twisted. It's not about that. But she goes through, in my eyes, as I'm reading it, the very structured format of a sales letter. Sales letter starts with a hook. I say this about everything. Everything starts with a hook. The hook at the top of this video was me trying to make you feel pulled into something that already had momentum, which is, hey, it's me, it's Chad, you found me, boom, 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 here we go, right? Hook's got to be fast, clean, they got to grab you, and let's get out. Her hook is, I'm leaving. Then the story follows the hook. The story is meant to build trust, to draw you in. And so she tries to present herself as someone who is being bold and honest and forthcoming and sharing with you all these reasons why it's time for her to go and transition to the next phase in her life. And this other time when she was brave and bold was when she ended a relationship and moved from LA to New York. And now it's time for another evolving blah, blah, blah. This is all blasey, blasey, blah, okay? This is all meant to pull in you, and by you I mean the larger you, which is all of us, which includes her colleagues at CAA, which includes anybody who's going to read that deadline piece, which I imagine was written by someone who, as I could see it, had a vested interest in the successes of this person in her future. We are the audience, and she's pulling us deeper into a place of trust and understanding as we read this piece. And then it lands with a sale, because this is a sales letter, okay? It's an email, it's a farewell note. But we all know, listen, I wrote my farewell notes to Google when I left Google. I wrote my farewell notes to a tech startup that I used to work at. I've written farewell notes. We've all written farewell notes to all kinds of people and entities and parties. And especially when you leave your job, we all know that what you want to leave them with at the end is a feeling that I'm off to do better, bigger things. And, however, and this is the fear that comes with a life indebted to corporations, but don't forget about little old me if you might want to give me some money later. And that's what you find at the end of this note, which is, I can't pull it up right this second, but in the final moment of this thread of her letter to her colleagues, she says, in so many words, I'm not going to quote exactly, but you can go find the piece and read them yourself. She says, if you want to stay in touch, or if you want to spend some time together, either hourly, she does specifically use the word hourly, or just as friends, reach out to me. That's a sale, folks. That is to say, I am leaving Hollywood to become a therapist. And now this is Chad using his eyes on it to see what's underneath this, which is that I am an agent. I understand this industry is busted beyond repair. And while all my colleagues are fleeing and running for the hills, and while all my clients are struggling, even the rich ones, to pay their bills, because rich people have bigger bills, I am going to go find the next thing. I'm going to go equip myself with the next thing to sell them, the thing that they're all going to need, which is therapy. That's sales, y'all. That's how it works. The salesperson understands that if you can see clearly enough to identify impending pain, right? The truth of pain that is coming for people. And if you can equip yourself with relief to that pain, the urgent relief to that pain, to sell them, you will be rich. That's how sales works. This is a lesson I'm processing right now. I have had an advisor and mentor for the last 15 years, just like her. I started my career at Google. That's where I met my mentor. That means Jackie Katz is my age, presumably. I have been told by this person over and over and over again, Chad, you're good at sales, okay? I know that I'm a creative. I know I'm an artist. I know I'm a really good writer. All that stuff is important to my identity and my ego. But there is a truth that I have accepted, which is that I am good at sales. Why? And this is the part that I think people get murky. And let's take it off of me. I don't want this to be all about me. But what makes somebody good at sales? What makes an agent good at sales? What makes a therapist really good at sales? Oh my God, therapists are the best at sales. Why? Because to sell somebody something, you have to know what's hurting. Once you know what's hurting, you can go and find it. Once you know they're thirsty, you can go and find water. Once you know their arm's broken, you can go find a sling. Missionaries rush into destitute countries right after a typhoon because they know that those people are suffering and they're looking for something. They're looking for a God to pray to fix them. That's the time to sell them something. That's when you sell people something. That's when you identify who they are, what they need, okay? Writers, creatives, we can be great at selling because we can see. Because we have a point of view on what's there in front of us, a person, a situation, something that has everything it needs except this one thing. And if it doesn't get it, it cannot go any further. That's what you sell somebody. And so Jackie Katz, I imagine, as she makes a point in her letter to her colleagues, which is in this deadline piece, as she makes a point to tell them, I'm going to be licensed in New York and in Los Angeles. For my LA clients out there, she doesn't say that, but she does say she's going to be licensed in New York and LA. She is going to know what hurts. She already does. It's in her inbox right now. Hey, I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my kids' tuition. I'm depressed. I'm lonely. I'm isolated. People that I thought were going to look out for me aren't here anymore. I'm broken. My whole identity was built. I imagine this is what her inbox looks like. Hey, you all at CAA, you told me y'all were going to help me reach my dreams. You told me you were going to help me find my place in this industry. I was a weird art kid when I was 6 years old, all the way till now. I'm 46. This is all I know. This is how I got to make a living. I'm on multiple medications trying to steady my mind, which I used to have an outlet for by my work in this industry. I don't have it anymore. What do I do from here? This is a real come on, listen. I'm in this. These are my people, y'all. These are my text messages. These are my friends. This is my community. These are people I used to work with that I really love. These are people I used to work with that I can't stand, who are sending me, who I know are going through this stuff. I got mortgages. I got car notes. I got hungry kids to feed. I'm scared. My mind is turning. That mind that used to churn out all these weird, crazy, creative ideas that used to help me sell, agent, they're turning inward on me. She knows that. And now she is going to go become a therapist. What to do with this information, creatives? Watch the people around the money in our industry. Watch the moves that they're making. You probably noticed an agent that you've had for the last few years has already left the industry to go and represent influencers. That probably happened a few years ago. You probably noticed one of your favorite agents stopped working in the TV department to go work in the podcasting department. I remember a few years ago, someone that I work with told me that the agents at WME, the podcasting agents, while everybody else was struggling around the time of the strikes, they were like, the podcasting agents are making money hand over foot or something like that, whatever the euphemism is. The point being is, creatives, pay attention to the people that are paying attention to the money that moves around in this industry. Watch where they're going. An agent going to become a therapist should tell you something about the future that's coming down the pike here, which is that this is not going to get better. This Hollywood industry, it's going to get worse. But the other what I'm doing right here, this is just going to continue to explode, because every single person who is capable of producing something themselves, distributing it with all the varied, openly accessible distribution platforms that we have today, and then most importantly, monetizing it themselves the way that an agent would have in the past, all of you are going to be running the future of Hollywood. All right. Now, how does this connect to the next two headlines that I mentioned, right? One of those headlines, Lucas Shaw says, we examined 6 years of Nielsen data to understand what TV people are streaming and how their tastes have changed. The other headline says, from the Wall Street Journal, says, how Meta's Reels became a $50 billion business. All right. Here are the important bits here. In that Nielsen report and in the examination therein, they use some metric system to determine that while each of the last 5 years has had somewhere between 2 and 5 hit shows, right? These are monster shows. 2025 had 0. And this Wall Street Journal piece says these two things go like this. They go like this. These two pieces of information that I'm offering you. The Wall Street Journal says that Mark Zuckerberg, in his earnings report, which is probably a place where Mark Zuckerberg is inclined to be more honest than usual, it says that Meta's Reels, which are, Reels, like Reels on Instagram, are going to be a $50 billion business in 2026. Reels started in 2020. So we're talking about 0 to $50 billion in 6 years. Okay. And I'm not talking about total. That is in a year, that business went from a $0 a year business to a $50 billion business in 5 years. For comparison's sake, because I know sometimes when we talk about these giant numbers, at least I feel this way, it's just like it's like the clouds. It's just like I don't even know, like, is that, how big is that? I mean, it's humongous obviously, but we have relative to what we make in a year, it means nothing. So let me explain. By comparison, YouTube will bring in $46 billion. TikTok will bring in $17 billion. And again, Instagram Reels were launched in 2020, okay? So it has zoomed past the revenue of those two other businesses in the short form video content space specifically. Why do those two pieces of information go together? The fact that Reels are booming more than ever and continuing to soar and go like this, hockey stick, and by comparison, there were no hit TV shows last year. I think the plain answer is obvious to anyone that's paying attention, which is we don't care about TV anymore. TV is background noise. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm a TV writer, by the way. I've written for 2 TV shows that I would call not hits, but knowable in the zeitgeist, especially if you're into like semi-premium black content, okay? Which is sort of a niche. Grownish is one of those shows I've written for. And Rap Shit is another one. I was a staff writer on Rap Shit, which is, I'll do a whole other video on that. Being a staff writer on a TV show was not, I realized, is like not the life that I want to have through that experience. But there's a lot to say on that because I'm proud of some of what happened there. More importantly, though, let's talk about this. TV shows are background noise. These are my viewing habits. When I watch a TV show, I have that show on this exact phone that I'm recording on right now. And while I'm watching it, I am playing in a smaller screen on that phone. Actually, no, the bigger screen is what I'm playing. The smaller screen is the TV show. I'm playing iPhone Netflix arcade game that's on the iPhone. It's what's that? What is that? You know, bing. It's such an obvious name and I can't think of it right now because I've been talking for 30 minutes. But the point is that I'm playing a video game on my phone while I'm watching a TV show, which is to say I'm not watching that TV show at all. When I close that little screen with the video game on it, I go text somebody. When I close that screen, I go to Reddit and I start scrolling and reading while the show plays as background noise. What I'm finding is that podcasts, TV shows are starting to play the same role that music used to play in our lives, which it was that something we could have on as a hum in the background, as something that we are casually listening to while we live our lives, while we do other things, while we consume and focus on what we're actually paying attention to, which today, unfortunately, is usually another smaller screen in front of us. They are no longer something that we attach ourselves to and our identities to and our psychologies to so that we continue to chew on them even when we're not watching. Every single night, I watch a horror movie in full, beginning to end. I watch the entire movie. Sometimes I fall asleep around the 80% mark. It happens. Last night, I was like, I've run out of horror movies to watch. I've watched I Love LA. I've watched Pluribus. I've watched The Sopranos 99 times. I've watched Game of Thrones. I've watched them all. Okay? And I consider myself someone who doesn't even consume that much TV comparatively, but I try to watch the good stuff. And so I'm like, I need something else to watch. And where did I go? To YouTube. And I watched horror YouTube shorts until I fell asleep. Because what I am finding for myself as a consumer and what I see in others as I study the consumption habits of others, as I build my own machine, my media machine, is that the value of getting and keeping someone's attention 10 times with 10 videos of 10 minutes in length each is every bit as valuable as trying to capture and keep their attention for 10 episodes of 60 minutes each over the course of a month as you roll it out, or if you have them stream it all at once. Let me say this more clearly to you, which is that what you want as a producer, as a creative, is somebody's fixed attention. You want the person that's looking at your thing like this. You don't want the person who's looking at your thing like this, because they're not looking. And eventually over time, that means that their allegiance, their subscription, their followership to what it is that you offer them as a brand, it wanes, it weakens, and it will soon be replaced by somebody or something else. That's just what happened to TV. TV got run of the mill. It got boring. It was always pretty formulaic, and it was always controlled by a few small studios who were deciding that looks like a woman that should be on TV. That looks like a guy that should be on TV, which 90% of the time was somebody that looked like a Western figure, meaning like a Western as in the globe Western. And so we got bored. Our eyes glazed over. Everyone tried to do something derivative of Sopranos. Breaking Bad was derivative of The Sopranos. There are people who think Breaking Bad is the best show ever. That's because they didn't see The Sopranos before they saw Breaking Bad. Game of Thrones. Now all the premium shows that are supposed to be big with wide landscapes and monsters and mythologies and all these things, they've become derivative of Game of Thrones. We're bored. Our eyes have glazed over. And so now we're more interested in watching the real lives and the 20% production value, but with 90% honesty lives of the people who are offering themselves up to us on these other apps, in these small short form video, in this short form video content space, right? I bet some of you watching this who came over here from my Instagram audience, you get more excited when you see one of my 90-second videos pop up than when you see somebody who you have been watching drone on and on and on to you as a newscaster, as somebody whose voice has become diluted by becoming mainstream over the last 30 years. You get more excited when you see me pop up than when you see them pop up. And that's because your eyes have lost the focus. The glaze is on. Now we need something new always. And so, because of that, Instagram Reels continues to explode. YouTube Shorts, TikTok, they're all going like this. And TV, which is bland and retread and still owned by the same small group of ownership, which has bland tastes because it has bland communities, because it has monochrome communities, is going like this. Because we finally get to pick what we actually want to watch, what we actually like. And what we actually like is watching each other. That's it. I'll be back. Go follow me at Chad Sand. You now know 3 things you didn't know before you watch this. Subscribe. Do it now. Share this with a friend. This has to go I got 65,000 total views lifetime on YouTube. This is the beginning of this for me. This is January 1. On Feb 1, we're going to come back and look at this and say, I need to have another 65,000 views by Feb 1 to compare to that lifetime 65,000 views that I have to this day. This is a new endeavor for me. Do it. Go subscribe. Share with your friends. You like me. Goodbye.